I was always a huge fan of Star Trek, the original, and then the next gen and everything. And I actually knew the composers on the show very well. Dennis McCarthy and Jay Chataway, fantastic.
This was on the Next Generation.
It's on the next gen. Yep. And David Bell. I'd be remiss to not mention David Bell. He's amazing, and a lot of other people that did that show, those shows. And so I got to know them, and they're sort of a collegial atmosphere, more so then than now. But it was kind of in vogue then to be. I would see Dennis at a coffee shop, and we'd talk shop and stuff. And lo and behold, they needed another person to come in and work on this new spinoff, which was Deep Space Nine. So I came in on Deep Space Nine and did one or two of those shows, and you get your feet wet. Star Trek had its own sound. It was different than Sequest, and Star Trek had a definite sound that sort of Dennis McCarthy had created.
Can you define what that is?
Well, it's a little hard to define. It's not as big and broad and loud as Sequest was. Very sort of big and broad and swirly. It was the sea after all. But Star Trek, interestingly enough, I gleaned early on before I even did the show that in talking to Dennis McCarthy that when you're on the bridge of the ship, you have to tone it down. So anything, if you'll notice on these shows, anything that's on the bridge, you can still have everybody playing, but it has to be kind of quiet. And then when you go outside into space, the trumpets could blare and you can get big. So Star Trek was different. Star Trek had that kind of more subdued sound, and it was a good sound. It worked really well. So when I got to do a Deep Space Nine, and it was a little bit different show. It was a little more sort of comedic. Is not a great word, but it was a little lighter than Next Gen. So I did one Deep Space. They liked it, and then I did another one. And in that time period, they called me to do another spinoff for Star Trek, and I couldn't do it. I was in the middle of doing a feature. So now my feature career was starting. So I think I was in the middle of a feature, couldn't do more Deep Space Nines, but then maybe a few months later, they called about doing a Next Gen. And so I did one Next Generation called Pegasus, which was a really fun thing to do.